about growing up in Owsley County?
Well, Owsley County is in eastern Kentucky and one of the small counties of the state, and we certainly had a very small chapter of FFA, but it was a wonderful organization.
You grew up on a little farm in Owsley County.
We had a small farm, and my brother and I had tobacco as our projects in FFA and strawberries in those days, back in the early 50s.
Your ag teacher, I know, was Hickman Patrick.
Hickman Patrick.
And you hold him in the highest regard. Talk about what kind of teacher he was.
Well, he was a wonderful teacher. He wanted to involve you, and the thing that I think was so great, as we progressed into FFA after the first year, as being an officer, you got to go to competitions in other schools and in the district and maybe in the region, and he always wanted us to participate, and that helped us. In those days, we didn't have the interstates and everything to get out, and going 100 miles was kind of a big thing then. So he was a great teacher, and he helped us much.
I know you attended camp.
Yes, about 1953. One story I'd like to tell about the camp. When the camp was being built, they asked each chapter to contribute $2,500, $500 each year for 5 years. And we earned most of our money selling popcorn at lunch for 5 cents a bag, and at basketball games we got 10 cents. And that's the way that we paid for our $500 those 4 years that I was there, and for our part of the camp.
Now, you went out in the community and solicited donations too, I think. Is that right?
Well, I don't know that we did. I've kind of forgotten. It's been so long, you know. Sure. But ours was $2,500, and we made that easily.
Did you go to a one-room school growing up? Or?
My first year was one room, and then I went to the Owsley County High School where we had more rooms, like 1 through 6, and then the 7th, 8th, and senior high school.
Now, what office were you in high school?
I was the treasurer 3 years. And I think that really, I think, led me to see the value of keeping books, balancing, handling money, and being able to disperse it out and balance it. And I thought it was a great start, and it certainly has helped me so far in life.
You told us earlier, but you all were going to the dedication of the new camp facilities.
Well, yes, Governor Chandler was going to be the guest speaker in the dedication down at Hardinsburg, and so in those days, the boys and girls, when you traveled, you usually stayed at the YWCA or the YMCA, the guys did, and so we went to Louisville and spent the night and got up really early, had breakfast, and on 2nd and Chestnut, someone came through the red light and hit us broadsided, and that ended our trip and totaled our car, and so we had to catch Greyhound and Black Brothers bus back to Owsley County, so forth. Fortunately, only one person had a broken finger and a gash, and that was it. But we got T-boned.
Now, in high school, obviously you had classroom instruction. Did you have a shop or do any lab activities?
We did some shop. As I've gotten older and thought how much I would have enjoyed or could have used if we could have had something like small motors. I find my lawnmower won't work. I don't know what's wrong with it today. And I thought, I wish we'd have had that in school, in FFA. We did make some woodwork and look at some tools and so forth.
Tell the horse trading story.
Well, one of our students, we were seniors, and it was really a hot day, and our classroom is down in the basement of the gymnasium, and our advisor, Mr. Patrick, was talking about corn, and we were right into the final picking of the corn, and it was probably about 90 degrees out, and this one student of ours, he wasn't much of a farmer, and he wanted to do something else, and he said, fellas, he said, I believe I'll just be a horse trader in life. And that's what he did. And Mr. Patrick stopped the class, and he was a little on the upset, and he waited 2 or 3 minutes or 4, and then he went on with the class and finished it for that day. But we've always, I kidded him about it later and laughed, that's what the guy did, and he was successful in that endeavor, you know.
Talk about your journey from FFA to the chocolate business, because that's a fascinating story.
Well, as Charles was talking about, the Binkleys, both of them, we all got back to service in 1961 in the Berlin crisis. Of course, they were officers. They were regiment, and I was in the 2nd Battalion in Harold's regiment also. And you know, every time you go in and make you be a cook, and we were feeding 450 people a meal at Fort Chaffee, and I baked and ran a shift for a while. And after I came back, I bought into a bakery, and that was the start of my career. Later that year, got into the candy business, which I've continued for 51 years. Well, in a bakery, if you are quality is, and in both candy and bakery, quality is your number one thing. In the bakery, most everything you make is consumed in one day. If not, it's thrown away or a reduced price. And in the candy, you can make candy ahead, and in fact, it's better to a few days later. Chocolate sets up more and so forth. So I quickly saw that if I wanted to get larger, that I needed to get into something else. And then, of course, in 1969, I came to Lexington, which gave me more opportunities.
Now, did you start the business from scratch?
I did, yes, 1964.
So what does one do to start a chocolate business from scratch?
Well, on a Sunday, I heard from a salesman that there was a chocolate shop for sale down in Evansville. He went down on a Sunday, and it was in bankruptcy, and I called the judge, and he said, if you'll call back on Monday, we'll do business. And I did, and we bought that chocolate shop, moved it upstairs. It was very successful, so I could start and let it start grow the way it happened today, which we use about 400,000 pounds of chocolate a year, and so that's been a long way. One thing that the military taught me is as Henry Ford said, you've got to have an assembly, and you got to be able to mass produce. And by us feeding so many people, I learned that you had to be able to get those large quantities out and get it out in quality. And that was a real lesson that I learned in there, because we would send 10 trucks to the field, the people, and it had to be there about 11 o'clock. And I'll just give a little bit of an idea. We used 2,000 pounds of potatoes for lunch, and 1,500 chickens, and 900 dozen eggs for breakfast. So when you're producing that type of food, and to try to get it in some quality is a big job.
Talk about the things you learned in FFA that have allowed you to be so successful in business.
I still go back to when I was treasurer. That was the start of it. I really enjoyed going to camp. I only got to go 1 year. I was a little bit older, and I was able to get a job and work, and of course I was 18 when I was in high school. But I think getting out and seeing how other things was happening in the world, and I left Owsley County in 1956 and went to Ohio in the summers, and then came to Lexington in 57, and that was kind of the start. And I did other jobs until I got called back to the service in 1961, and then that kind of opened up the road in the food business.
Talk about some of the other folks that you were in FFA with, and that you knew that.
Well, Jerry Ringo was one of the outstanding farmers that we heard about when I was a junior and senior in high school. And Tracy Farmer was from Lee County, and I believe he could have been president of the state. I'm just not sure, either vice president one. And I know him. He lives here in Lexington, and that's some of the people that I knew. I was down and visited down at Hardinsburg a few years ago, and got to go up to the museum and look at some of the old pictures and people that I knew in that 4 or 5 year range. But after I got out of high school, I didn't have a lot of contact with FFA. But now, since the convention is here in Lexington, well, we get a lot of students through on tours. When the students come through, they are such a great group of kids, boys and girls, that they're so neat. Their manners are wonderful, and it's yes sir and no sir, and they're just outstanding people, and you can see that they're going to be outstanding people in their lives because they do project that as they come through, and we really enjoy having them.
What kind of advice would you give to our students about how to be successful in life, how to prepare for success?
I think that one of the most important things in an education or school is mathematics. I have found in my life that you can hire people to do everything except math. And your math, if it's really good, it just opens the doors. You can put numbers to business opportunities and so forth is so important. Percentages, understanding to count quickly, put numbers, if you're bidding on a farm or something, you know what the interest rates is going to be. You have some quick ideas. If you don't have that, I think it's really a detriment. And as we get classes through from the university, that is the thing that I always say. They'll say, what do you think is most important thing to success? And I said, get your mathematics. If you can do that, then you can always be very successful, I feel.
Maybe mention just a little more about Mr. Patrick and your relationship with him, because you all were close till this time last year.
Yes, in fact, I talked to him 2 days before his passing, and he was just as vibrant that day as he could be. In fact, he had gone to his family's reunion, and I think there were about 90 people there, and this was on a Saturday, and he got sick on a Sunday and passed on Monday morning. And I called him at least once a month, and just to see how he was doing, because he was 99 years old, and he was as sharp as they say, a tack.
He taught I guess in Lee County, and then
Yes.
Owsley, and then went back to Lee. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if he taught first in Lee or not, but about 1951 or 2, he was at Owsley, and he left there about 1960 and went to Lee County. And when I left, I wasn't as close, but then after he moved here over to Bergen, well, then we became much closer. And in fact, he came to our class reunions for 5 or 6 years.
And you still have class reunions, right?
Oh, yes. 58 of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything else you want to tell us?
Well, we enjoy having the FFA here in Lexington at the state convention, and I hope you continue, and whatever we can do to help and assist, well, we were glad to do it. And kids come through on tours, well, we'll show them a little bit of what using agriculture products. I wish we could use more from Kentucky, but I guess corn is probably the only thing that could be made corn syrup. But we do our part, I think, in agriculture, about 500,000 pounds per year.
Not a lot of cocoa beans grown in Kentucky.
Not many. It's not warm enough. That means that the schools and churches in central Kentucky made $1.5 million.
Yeah.
And when there is one up here at Camargo, it's an elementary school, and twice a year the principal gets behind it, and they make $10,000 twice a year. In 2 weeks, they make $10,000. That's all they do. And Henry Clay, the Lexington schools here are wonderful. Henry Clay makes about $30,000. We'll have 8 groups over there selling at one time. And of course, we're trying to work with North Hardin, because they're going to the Macy's Day Parade in Chicago, or in New York.
Good deal.
Yeah. Easy money.
Yeah.
Chocolate, though, we could be going to have problems, because over there having a lot of trouble over the countries. If that Ebola was to get into the chocolate into the countries, we would be in a heap of hurt. Yes. Yeah, let me hold this up here.
Jacket.
This is my jacket in my senior year in high school, and it's just like the day that I got it. And I have my buttons there, and I've kind of forgotten what they are. The ones that teach, you remember those. But whenever you mention a green hand, I remember that very well from FFA. And this is the back of it, and it's just like the day that I bought it. So, and Mr. Patrick put that on, and I tried to find the picture today, but this is 1953 and 1954.
Do you have any idea what your jacket cost? Do you remember?
Was it $675 or $695?
That'd be pretty close.
Pretty close in that, I believe.
When I bought mine, it was about 8.
I remember a pair of Converse basketball. So this is probably pretty close.
What did you do to earn that money?
I guess my parents gave it to me. We're proud of our FFA jackets. We had our basketball sweaters also, but we wore them to school. This is probably my second one, and we wore them to school, and when there was just weather that you needed a little jacket, and we were proud of them. And like the kids wear them today.
Did y'all have an FFA sweetheart in Owsley County?
Yes. You know, we had a banquet, and I can remember I was on that board to decide what we were going to eat, and I think it was turkey and mashed potatoes and peas and a piece of cake.
When you all would travel, I assume you went probably in the teacher's car.
Teacher's car, and that's that we had the accident in, and of course he had a new vehicle at that time, and driver, and we enjoyed it.
Well, my dad was not educated, but he was really a hard worker. In his latter years, he was a salesman. And I'll tell you this, I'll never forget, one time in 1949, they came through selling Electrolux vacuum cleaners on a Saturday. And they did not buy. He said, if you'll come back on Monday, I'll buy. And he just happened to say to the guy, he said, you know, I think I could sell those. So we were farming and were not making any money much in Owsley County. So for 3 years, he sold those with a group of guys working for him. And he sold 1 month 106, and they got a trip to New York and then so forth. Then after that, he started selling insurance. And I will never forget, in 1953, he was working for Bankers Life and Casualty. They brought his bonus. And it's on a Saturday, and the guy said, we got your dad's bonus. And he said, where are they? I said, well, he's went to Lodge down at Irvin. And I said, they'll be back, you know, maybe 5 or 6. And they stayed around, and Daddy and Mother didn't get back. So they said, well, we'll just leave you the check. And I'll never forget, it was for $3,666.66.
That's quite a bit.
And a new car was $1,580. So you know what a new Chevrolet is today. Mm-hmm. So that bonus was twice what a new car is today,
When I
$80,000.
first started teaching, I made $5,148.
Oh, yeah.
$99 a week.
Oh yeah. When we got called back in the Army, I was making $180 a month. $180. When I got out after a year, we got $210. Big $20 raise. Got another stripe.
That's a big bonus you got. That's selling Electrolux or insurance?
Selling insurance.
Insurance.
Yeah. That was a lot of money in 1953.
Oh, yeah.
A new Chevrolet was $1,580.
Well, I thank you for allowing me to share those memories, and they certainly are good, and I've always been very happy and appreciated what FFA did for me.